you. Good morning, good morning to you. Good morning, good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning, good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning to you. And many more. And many more. And many more. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles, and it is Wednesday. If you were with us for the first time, we broadcast Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday with our Sunday dialogue. During the week, we share here with our read alouds from various books, and we dive into the topics and have some discussion around the books and whatever might be current events. Also, we encourage you to purchase those books or to check them out from your local library. Use them through your Libby app, download them through Kindle and Nook. So we are definitely here to encourage literacy overall. Also, we talk on Wednesday specifically about relationships. And so we are going to get into our relationship topic on today. And that is setting boundaries, finding peace, dealing with your reclaiming of yourself and your own personal boundaries, and drama free, a guide to maintaining unhealthy, not maintaining, managing unhealthy family relationships to get them hopefully to healthy. So we are starting out with set boundaries, find peace, which is talking about our individual boundaries. We're getting ready to close a chapter. We have been on the chapter entitled, What Are You Doing to Honor Your Boundaries? And that is chapter number, make sure I give it to you, chapter number 9. So we are wrapping up this chapter. Next week, hopefully, we will be in chapter 10. This section is called The Power of Refreshing and Restating Your Boundaries. I don't know about you all, but as I have gotten older, I have found it to be very necessary to restate my boundaries, but also to clarify my boundaries a little bit more, especially with people that may have known me for a very, very long time. They might not know this version of me. I'll say it that way. And so when I am reconnecting with people that I haven't not seen in a while, I do find it necessary to kind of refresh our expectations of each other in our relationship. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a very healthy thing to do. I think that's a very mature thing to do. Sometimes we find ourselves at odds with people that we might have known, in a previous time in our life. And sometimes you just have to restate what your boundaries are and let them know in the places in which you have evolved. And good morning to those of you who are coming in. Let us jump right into the reading here. Refreshing. As humans, we change and our boundaries change with us. It's okay if your tolerance for certain things in your relationship changes. You can create new expectations. When this happens, you can say, such and such is no longer working for me. I would like to do X, Y, and Z. also ease up on the boundaries you previously set. For example, if you decide you won't stay at work past 6 p.m., you can stay longer on occasion if you wish. Consider this. What has prompted you to shift your boundaries? Is this going to be a temporary shift or is it going to be a permanent one? How will shifting your boundaries impact your own goals? Will changing your boundary continue to honor who you are in your relationship? The other thing we can do is restate. Over time, people may assume that your boundaries with them have expired. Remind them, as well as yourself, about your expectations, including why they were set in the first place. Know that the changes you see in the other person are a direct result of the boundaries that you set in the relationship. If over time you find yourself reneging on the limits you set, remember how they positively impacted your life. Recommit to those boundaries and proceed with honoring them. You can't change people, but you can change how you deal with them, what you accept, how you react to them, how often you interact with them, how much space you allow them to take up, what you participate in with them, what role you allow them to play in your life, what people you have contact with, who you allow in your life in a personal and intimate way, and your perspective. Those are the things that you can change. And finally, I say this all the time. It's probably one of the second or third most common things that I say all the time, and that is consistency is key, right? From time to time, you may not honor your boundaries, but when you find yourself getting into a rut, get out. I know that sounds easier said than done, but remember that you don't have to commit to staying down. The moment that you begin to notice that you are not honoring your own boundaries, get right back to keeping your word to yourself. If you've labeled yourself as a person who can't stick to things, you will be a person who can't stick to things. So change the narrative of who you've told yourself you are by removing the negative connotation. Instead, tell yourself, I am a person who sticks to things and I stick to it right now. And then, as she said, consistency is key. And over time, the people who felt like they could violate your boundaries because, he doesn't stick to really what he says or she doesn't really stick to it, they'll start to see that consistency of you sticking to what it was that you said, and then they will follow suit. Remember, people will begin to treat you the way they see you treating yourself. So if you are sticking to your word for yourself, if you are valuing and honoring your own words, people will see that and follow suit. James Clear said this: the ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It's something very different to say, I'm the type of person who is this. So, today's exercise, this is your challenge to do on your own. You can grab your journal or a separate sheet of paper to complete the following exercise, or you can email it to yourself like I do often. What type of person do you want to be? Become who you want to be and introduce that version of yourself to the rest of the world. Create a list of boundaries that you want to implement for yourself. For example, I want to save more money. Next to each one, identify one actionable step to help you uphold your boundary. For example, starting a savings account and adding $30 per month to that account. I think those are some really good exercises. We've talked here and we talk about it on Fridays here with our other money books. But we've talked about the importance of money, the importance of understanding money and currency and the types of money that flow. We've talked here about credit systems and how you can use credit systems to benefit you, but you have to know how credit works, and that is a really good goal. A lot of times I know people start off the top of the year with their physical goals, right? Getting into shape and all these other things, but try to start off this next quarter, right? We've got September, October, November, December. Try to see what you can do in this quarter in terms of improving your boundaries around money, your boundaries around wealth. Um, I am actually getting ready to check on a CD that I put in last year, and it's getting ready to mature. And I like what the CD is doing, but now I have some choices to make. Do I pull the money out, put it into a traditional savings? Do I pull half the money out and start another CD? Um, or do I just keep it going and let it mature for another 2 or 3 years? So think about that for yourself. What kind of boundaries do I have around my money? Maybe it is not giving out so much money this next quarter. Maybe you're the person in the family that everybody goes to like this. And maybe your boundary, maybe you might need to set a boundary this quarter because, hey, you might want to have some money left over at the end of the year. Or you might want to be more generous at charitable giving times, which typically come around Thanksgiving time, November and December for lots of organizations. It becomes a big push for charitable giving towards the end of the year. So maybe you want to be a little bit more charitable in your giving toward the end of the year. And usually you get to the end of the year and you don't have it to give. So think about that. What kind of boundaries do you want to set when it comes to your finances? All right, moving right along. Boom, boom. As we move right along, I want to share a quick story with you. I'm going to pull something just a moment and show it to you guys because it goes with my story. So give me a moment. And I'm going to try to be as careful as I can with it. All right. So earlier this week, I had missed I missed my hubby's taking out of the trash, and I had some things that I needed to add to our trash, which is kind of far away from where our home is. Not too far, but it's a walk, right? So I gathered this extra trash bag, and I was walking it down the street, and one of my neighbors was waving, and I stopped and we started talking for a little bit, and she said, "You know what? I was going to stop by and just leave these on people's doorsteps because I wanted to do something nice." And we had a major event, and we had these lovely arrangements. And I saw that they were getting ready to toss all of these arrangements, and I didn't want to toss them. So I took them home with me and I said, well, I'll just give them to my neighbors, right? So I'm walking down and I've got this whole bag of trash in my hands. And she she held up this beautiful, see that? It's complete, it's glass. So she held this up and she was like, "Oh, I want to give this to you. I want to give this to you." And I said, "Hold on. Let me get rid of the trash. Let me finish walking down. I'll toss my trash in my can and I'll come back and I'll get the flowers." And she was like, "Well, I poured the water out, so all you have to do is add some water back in and they'll be good to go." And this was a couple of days ago. As you can see, they are absolutely beautiful, right? And as I was walking back down to my home, this thought came to me, and I said, "Man, I've been meaning to write it on my social media, but I never got a chance to do that this week yet." And so I said, "Let me just tell you guys." And so I'm walking back down, and I'm walking with the vase in my hand, and the thought immediately came to me that sometimes we are holding on to trash. Sometimes we are holding on to the things that we need to take out. Sometimes it's the trash that we're holding that doesn't allow us to have the capacity to receive the new thing, doesn't allow us to have the capacity to hold the new thing. And the finishing thought that came to my mind was you can either hold trash or you can either hold treasure. You can either hold the things in your life that need to be discarded, or you can either hold the beautiful things in your life that are ready to come to you because there's somebody waiting to give you something beautiful, but you don't have the space for it. You don't have the capacity for it. You see it, but your hands are full. Your hands are full of trash. And so you can make the decision, do I want to just hold on to the trash, right? Or do I make the decision in my mind, oh, in order for me to get that, I've got to let go of this. And it may take you a moment, right? I had to go discard my trash and come back in order to be ready to receive this beautiful, lovely, blooming gift. Sometimes that's what happens in our life. And it ties right into our boundaries. Sometimes we're not ready to receive the beautiful, right? Because our boundaries haven't made room for it. Mm. But anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys because I was like, man, this is a powerful lesson. And it just came to me right then. I was like, man, this is how some of us are. We're just, our hands are full of trash. We got stuff that we got to get out. We have stuff we have to take out. We have stuff we have to get rid of. And when the opportunity comes for something beautiful to be given to us, when the opportunity comes for something beautiful to happen, are our hands full? And if they are, what are we going to do with the opportunity in the moment? Do we recognize that our hands are full? Do we get rid of and discard the things that we don't need so that we can come back, as the young people would say, let me circle back, right? And pick up the thing that is beautiful and that can add some je ne sais quoi to our life, right? And look at this. I want to show it to you one more time. Now look at my background. The back of my wall is like this it's almost like a pewter grayish blue, right? But it fits so beautifully in with the color that's already in my home. So she had other arrangements, but she picked up this one and chose to give it to me. And I was like, wow, this is goes along perfectly with my environment. And that's a whole other word. The things that are picked out for you will fit right in. All right, we're moving on to a guide to managing unhealthy family relationships drama free. And in this book, we are in the chapter Troubleshooting Relationships with Parents. Troubleshooting Relationships with Parents. Over the past week or so, since my relative, my great aunt, had her injury, she fell and she didn't quite break her hip, but she cracked the ball in the socket of her hip. That was a miracle in and of itself. And the only thing they had to do is, it was a major surgery, but the only thing they had to do was take out the ball and replace it. There were no other cracks around the hip joints or any of that. So we are very thankful for that. She is in recovery now. And as you all have seen this past week, I've kind of been in and out and having to adjust this schedule because we are working as a collective family to care for her. She is not in the same town as I am, so I'm driving back and forth. And it is cousins and it is godchildren taking care of her, and it is all of her friends and her community members and community leaders that are going to see about her and check in on her. Um, my part has been yesterday. I we were laughing because I told her I felt like I was doing a dorm day move in. We had to shift her from one rehab nursing slash rehab facility to another because the people did not care about her. Um, and that's a whole other broadcast I'll get into, but I'm going somewhere with my story right now. But what I have noticed in all of this, my great aunt has had two children. One of her children passed many, many years ago in her 20s. And then her son, which is my second cousin, lives way over in Minnesota, right? So he flew in, helped get her settled into the first place, and then because of the lack of empathy and the lack of attentive care that we know that she needs, we decided we're not going to have her stay here. We're going to move her to another facility. So yesterday, that's what I was doing. I was being the the move coordinator and making sure that all of her things were moved, and that she was checked into the new facility, looked around it, got her settled in, made sure that her dinner and her meal was she had gotten it once she got there, and then I was back on the road. And I said all that to say that as I have been talking with my second cousin, who is her son, it's been a beautiful thing to see a son care so deeply for his mother. I don't know if I can explain it because this was a cousin that I had never met. So this was our first time meeting. He's, I think, 2 years younger than me. So this was our first time meeting in person. Like I've seen him in pictures, he's seen me in pictures. We've talked on the phone, that kind of thing over the years. But this was like our first in person meeting. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a super big family. So there's a lot of relatives that I have never met in real life. I see pictures of them. If you come from that kind of family, you know what I'm talking about. But to be able to meet him and greet him in person, it was almost like I felt like we had known each other our whole lives, which is pretty cool. And I look at their dynamic as mother and as son. She's also a widow, so it's them. It's mom and son, who have both gone through the loss of his sister and his father. And to be able to see their dynamic and it be a beautiful, healthy exchange, right? There's so many stories out here of people who just have bad relationships with their parents, of men who have mother issues and all of those kind of things. But it was so refreshing to see their joy with each other, their interaction with each other, um, his admiration for his mother, and also to be able to help facilitate making sure things were right, even though because he had to leave, even though he's on the other side of the world, other side of the country, that he calls frequently, he checks in, he emails, he asks for documentation, he is calling the nursing home center and he's talking to his mom on a regular basis just to make sure that everything is going well. That is a beautiful dynamic. And I feel like as parents get older, right? You want to have raised a child. You want to have communicated in such a way as a parent that your child is not ready to escape you. That your child is not ready to just dump you off into a facility and never visit you or never call you or never talk to you again. I've heard so many stories like that this has been refreshing and a joy to see. And knowing what the circumstances are, she's not senile, she doesn't have dementia or Alzheimer or anything of that nature. She's sound of mind. She just had an accident, a physical injury. She's going to go through the rehab process and then she will go home. But to be able to see how many people, not just her son, but how many people have come in and been a support, who have said, hey, I'll come in and I will, I'll be there, I'll sit with her for 2 to 3 hours or 4 hours. I'll come in the night. I know you can't get here but I'll come until the center closes. And it's just been a rotation of people. Obviously, we have to say, okay, let's make sure that she's getting her rest in this process because a part of healing is rest. But it has just been a good thing to see the community that we talk about often, right? The fact that we need mutual care for one another. Everybody doesn't get that experience with their parents. This is what I'm realizing. I don't know if I'm going to get that experience with my parent. My father has passed away, and my mother's relationship is very estranged. We're not angry or anything with each other, but it's because of her mental health issues and her mental health state. So, my prayer is, hey, I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm learning. And as I watch and I listen and I learn and I glean on this process, I know eventually, possibly, I'm probably going to have to deal with this process a little bit later with my own parent. And so I think this is tying into what she's talking here about true troubleshooting relationships with your parents. Thinking about what is your parental relationship like now? Do you get along with your relatives? Do you get along with your parent? And by extension, does your parent have other people that are connected that should something happen to them, people would be willing to come along and assist you in helping them or come along and step up to the plate to be willing to assist you? I think that's a serious question that people need to think about, especially if you have older and aging parents. She's talking today in this book about setting clear boundaries when you're troubleshooting relationships with your parents. You deserve boundaries now, and you also deserved boundaries as a child, too. In dysfunctional families, boundaries are viewed as a threat to the overall system. Asking for something different, expressing as an expectation, or not going along with the typical chaos can all seem like you're trying to make waves in the family. The truth is that you are making waves because you're refusing to continue in dysfunction. In healthy relationships, boundaries aren't offensive. Even when people don't like your boundaries, they can respect them. Liking the boundary is optional. Respecting the boundary is non negotiable. Boundaries in dysfunctional families might sound like the following: Mom, your brother isn't invited to my house. I'm not giving you money to buy addictive items. Stop bringing up religion to condone being physically abusive. Making fun of people's weight is not funny to me, and I need you to stop. How to manage when you're dependent. If you are dependent on your parents for financial support, there's a potential harm if you're honest with them. For children, teens, or adults who have moved back home or never left home, here are some ways to manage the family issues. Number one, find support outside the family. Talk to a trusted peer, a mental health professional, or a family member who can support you, but don't struggle alone. Make possible provisions so that if you get put out, you have somewhere to go. Number two, plan your exit strategy. Attend school to finish your education or gain new skills. Work and save to move out. Recently heard of there's an organization that We Dare Squad supports called Move In Day Mafia, and some of the stories of these children who were either foster kids or they come from a very um, dysfunctional family background. Some of these stories are heartbreaking. This one over the past summer, the young lady and her mother had gotten into it. She was the oldest sibling, and the mother wanted her to live in the home with her and was sort of using her as the babysitter. So the mom wanted her to stay close to home and not go away for college. Well, she wanted to get out from under that system, right? of being the caretaker to her siblings because that's really not her responsibility, and she wanted to go to a school farther away. She had accepted going to a school farther away. She had not told her mother yet, but once her mother found out, her mother kicked her out of the house, I think maybe like 2 weeks before graduation. So the organization was kind of scrambling to help her and to figure that out. But this is very important, planning an exit strategy, because sometimes in these kind of relationships where dysfunction is happening, the parent can become very vindictive. There was no reason for her mother to kick her out 2 weeks before her graduation date, except but to be vindictive. And so she was able to get the help that she needed, and she is now in college, moved into her dorm, and settled in. But what a traumatic way to enter college, right? I'm trying to better my life. I'm trying to do something positive to move myself along independently, but yet I have a family member, my own mother, right, sabotaging my growth, sabotaging my ability to move forward. That's traumatizing. And I also hope that she gets the therapeutic help that she's going to need for that. Number three, resist being stuck. Develop a healthy mentality and focus your sights on becoming independent. Now, the next section is how to manage being a caregiver to your parents, which we sort of talked about. It's not my parent per se, and I'm a part of a community of caregivers now. But next week we'll get into that specifically. How to manage being a caregiver to your parents. I know some people right now who have said, "Listen, I don't get along very well with my parent, and so I don't plan on being a caregiver to them." I want to encourage you to rethink that, and not saying that you don't have to go, not saying that you won't go the nursing home or rehabilitative option or route, but as I have seen this past week, even in going with that route, you still need to be vigilant about how your relative is being treated in those spaces. Like I said, the first one we went to, it felt like an emergency trauma, a trauma emergency room, and it felt like that the whole time that we had her there. The people were very unempathetic. They were very cold. They sort of moved around like zombies in the space. None of them spoke. Yesterday, when we moved her out, I had come in the day before, and you had to sign in at this kiosk, and then there's like two or three residential halls that you have to go through before you got to her room. And I said to myself, I said, let me count how many people I encounter or bypass on my way to her room, and let me see how many of them speak. Look up, just say hi, or just nod your head, or just make any sort of acknowledgement. Do you know how many people I counted that I passed by that didn't even look up, didn't speak, didn't look up from their computer? When they did look, they didn't say anything. Do you know how many people I counted that I passed? And this is a rather large facility. They had 166 people on staff. I passed by 40 of them, and not one spoke. Not one. Not one looked up from what they were doing to just say, that was a whole problem. And so, yeah, she is no longer at that facility. She is at a better facility. The people are personable. It's a smaller facility because we wanted her to get more direct, aware care. I'll just say that, aware in your care. So, this is what I wanted to share today. I hope that I have said something encouraging or helpful or insightful. We're going to have the talk back now. Pastor Ben, I've already sent you the connecting link. So if you want to click into that, I will bring you right on. And let me me make sure my volume is all the way up. It is all the way up. And we'll have a talk back. Again, I highly recommend both of these books. She also has a set of affirmation cards and activity cards that go along with them. And she has a workbook as well for this book here. And I have them both. All right. Pastor Ben, let me know if you see that link or not. I'll send it again if you don't see it. It might be in your spam folder, so you might want to check there. Sometimes it goes to spam. Let me do something here. Do you see the link to get it? Okay. Give me 1 second. All right. I'll hang up and you just let me know if you see it or not. Thank you all for your patience today. I hope everybody is having a great and wonderful day. It is slightly cold here. I want to say it's under 70. We're finally getting some fall cheer. I think fall is officially my favorite. Autumn is officially my favorite season. Oh, yeah. It is 62 degrees right now. Definitely cool. I felt it when I got up. I felt it in my bones. Anybody else feel the change of the seasons in their bones, or is that just me? So that's why I'm wearing this sweatshirt. I haven't been outside yet, but I said it's got to be cold. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good
Okay, I
morning.
can hear you. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Everything's pretty good. Looks like I'm about to get some of that famous Florida liquid sunshine.
What? We don't have sunshine today. It's cloudy overhead and it's 62, but I'll take it.
Yeah, well, I did say liquid sunshine.
Oh, rain. Got it. I didn't catch the
Yeah.
liquid part.
Oh boy, but uh, we're talking about boundaries, and we're talking about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, I'm gonna say this: some people get offended when you set boundaries
Yes.
because they feel like they're supposed to have access to everything 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
and they're supposed to have their way.
This is true. I've noticed this.
Yeah, and I just said that, and I realized I could very well be talking to that person in the White House.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, those people, it's like they ignore your boundaries totally, and it's like you set boundaries for everybody else but me. You're not supposed to set boundaries for me.
Mm-hmm.
See, those people, me, I hit the block button or delete button with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because my time is valuable to me,
Mm-hmm.
which means that I give you my time when it's convenient or when I have the time to give you that time.
Mm-hmm.
But you will not impose on my time. That's that. Now, I also want to talk about the parents that kicked her daughter out of the house
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks before graduation.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I don't even know how to explain that, but it could be that her mom may have been a little jealous, may have been be a little jealousy in there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, because this
Absolutely.
girl is trying to further herself. I'm like this. Most parents that I grew up around, and this is the way I am, they wanted their children to go further than they did.
True.
And they did everything they could to support that.
True. Yes. I know for my family, my mom was pretty much like, I have gotten y'all to this point. When you all graduate, I have already expressed, and she did for several years. She was like, when you graduate, you got a few choices. You can go to the military, you can get a job, or you can go to college. But you're not just gonna be sitting around here doing nothing. You better have a plan. You better have a plan, because um at that point, and my thing was like, wait a minute, I ain't even considered an adult yet. Cause I was graduating at 17. I was like, I ain't an adult. She was like, you better have a plan. But see, I had already been working since 13. So in terms of work ethic and um, earning money and money management and helping pay bills, I look back at that now and I say, obviously, that wasn't ideal, right? My brother and I were both working to help my mother pay bills. That's not an ideal situation,
Mm-mm.
but I knew that I had to have some responsibility about my future, because I was already having to have responsibility about basic necessities, you know? And so I tell people, I'm like, you're looking at my life now, but I grew up in the hood. And if people think that people in the hood struggled before, because even with government assistance or whatever, they still weren't giving you enough to actually live. Let's be clear about that. But if you think people were struggling back then, it's about to be 1,000 times worse than what it
Mm-hmm.
was back then. Especially when they get done with what they're doing with housing, how they're changing how housing is done, and telling people they're gonna have no housing. I think after 1 or 2 years or something like that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not
2 years.
so it's not gonna be where people just live in government housing and just live in government housing, because they are at the um, subclass of the economic rung. These are people who don't really have mobility, and then you're going to snatch what little they have, knowing that they don't have upward mobility. That is going to be a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, yeah, I think definitely the mother had jealousy issues, because she didn't want to keep raising her siblings. The mother wanted her to stay close to home and live with her to continue to raise the siblings while trying to go to school. Now, I don't know if the mother went to college. We don't know that part. But the reality is, if you have gone to college and you understand a collegiate schedule, you know this it's difficult. You
Mm-hmm.
got to concentrate. You got to focus. Um, and she was smart enough to know for herself that that wasn't going to be helpful for her. That wasn't going to be conducive to her actually being focused as a college student. She wasn't a single mother. She was not, pregnant trying to go to college. That would have been her own dynamic to work through. But no, these are her mother's children.
Mm-hmm.
These are her siblings. She's not obligated to be play mother to them. And I don't know why a whole lot of other people don't realize that. Your children are not obligated to play parent to their siblings. Can we agree on that or not?
We can agree on that.
One more time. Your children are not obligated to play parent to their siblings. That's your responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just
But
saying.
well, that's it. The only situation that you may find a sibling actually taking responsibility for their younger sibling and raising them is if both parents are deceased,
Or incapacitated in some way
or
because
are incapacitated in some way.
I
Yeah.
know my sister took on the responsibility of cooking, right? But that was because at the time my mom was working like two jobs. She was singing in nightclubs, trying to make more money, um, and stuff like that. But it wasn't her obligation. She didn't have to do that. She didn't have to cook the food, but my mother trained her, and my sister said, "Okay, I'm willing to do this part. However, I'm not getting a job." So my sister, you know, took care of some of the things in the house. We all had chores and stuff like that. It was me, my older sister, and my older brother. We all had chores, but my brother worked and I worked. And we kept part of our money and we gave a portion of our money to help with the bills. And my sister did the cooking. So we had a system, right, that worked for our family dynamic. That might not work
Mm-hmm.
for somebody else's family dynamic. We stood up for each other. We stuck up for each other. My mother always said, "Listen, y'all can fight amongst yourselves. Y'all can disagree amongst yourselves. But when it comes to out there, you better not let nobody talk about your sister. You better not let nobody talk about your brother. You better not gang up against your sister and side with your friends." Oh, it values. That was our family values. That was our hood values. Okay? We could get along. We could disagree with each other in the house. We didn't have knockdown drag out fights. We got into it every now and then. We were more of the I'm gonna throw knives. We were a knife throwing when we got down. I'm very handy with a knife. Don't play. So um but that was how we had our disagreements. And when it came to outside of that, if it turned out that, oh, you turning against your sibling because you think these people are your friends, or you think you have more in common with your friends than you got with your siblings, let me refresh your memory how things go in this house. And I
Mm-hmm.
consistent and I consistently find that to be true, by the way. That I watch people's relationship and I say, sooner or later they're gonna find out that those friends are not as um, copacetic as they think they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're seeing that in some of the news things that we've seen with people going off with their friends. And I'm like, do they have siblings? Where are they siblings? What's going on here? What is their family dynamic like that they would put all their faith in people outside of their family, and then they wind up unalived in another country and nobody knows what happened and nobody
Mm-hmm.
knows what went down. Now, on the other hand of that, I do have some family members with that I would never go out of the country with them because I don't trust them. I wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
putting my life in their hands either. But I'm just saying, when I find people having the dynamic of you want to shun all your family members and you just want to lean into your friends, I would say you need to check that. You need to confront
Mm-hmm.
what is going on in your family that you don't feel any connection to your family and you only feel a connection to your friends. Now remember, we are aware that there are caveats to that. If you come from a completely dysfunctional family, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people who just discard their family altogether. Don't try to make any kind of relational connection and just gravitate to people outside their families. Sometimes that can be dangerous because when people know, oh, you don't have no good relationship with your family, ain't nobody gonna be checking for you, that can be a recipe for abuse outside of your family because they
Mm-hmm.
know, oh, you got bad relationships with your family, so nobody's going to check on you. Nobody's checking for you. So just be thinking about that in your own dynamic. Am I running away from my basic family relationships? Not people who have been abusive to me or um, there's some sort of dysfunction there, but are there people in my family that I can engage with and have good, healthy relationships with? Or is everybody trash? You can't make me believe that everybody is trash.
Right.
Unless your family is like Marilyn Manson or something. You can't make me believe that every single person in your family is trash. You got some good ones in there. I'm encouraging you to make sure that you at least establish a few healthy family relationships and connections. Don't solely depend on people outside of your family dynamic. Final thoughts?
I agree with everything you just said. Because I have 6 siblings. Two of them were very tight, and we just happened to be the three of us that took care of the parents.
Mm-hmm.
We're very tight. Two of them are what you would call trashy.
Mm,
The other two are stuck in the middle.
mm.
But that's important for us, and that's for us. And as you said, they will only do what you allow them to get away with.
Mm-hmm.
They'll test it. If you shut it down, you shut it down. Not saying they won't test it again, but you keep shutting it down.
Yeah.
But if you don't shut it down, they're going to keep doing it, and
Every
they're going to get worse.
every single time. And like you said, it sometimes disrespect escalates because we don't nip it in the bud when it happens the first time.
Hmm.
When you
Yeah.
find somebody that is like comfortable disrespecting you, ask yourself, did I let the disrespect go the first time? Did I just brush it off as, oh, maybe that's a one and done, that's a one off?
Hmm.
Did I start rationalizing, well, that's just how so and so is? Because when you start rationalizing that's just how so and so is, and not so and so gonna need to adjust if we gonna be um, in communication and relationship, the disrespect will.
It will.
the disrespect will increase. It
Mm-hmm.
will intensify. Um, my mom used to say this. She was like, first, people will you open your door and people will just walk in your house and go sit down. Next thing you know, you open the door and people will be at your refrigerator. Next thing you know, you open your door and people will have a suitcase. Like it will just their behavior will just increase if you
Mm-hmm.
don't say anything. If you don't start at the first sign that somebody has a potential to violate your boundaries, if at the first sign you feel like I'm not okay with this, when you get that feeling, I'm not okay with this, or this makes me feel uncomfortable, you need to communicate it right then or 5 minutes down the line. Hey, I'm glad to have you over. Um, but you bypassed me and went straight to my couch.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't say hi, how you doing? Are you busy? Can I come in? Oh, and especially we know in black houses, you don't come by uninvited. you
Nope.
don't come, you don't come by without unscheduled, and you don't come by uninvited. And if you are not black and you don't know those rules and you got black friends, let me tell you, 98.9% of your black friends is gonna tell you the same thing. You don't
Mm-hmm.
come by uninvited and you don't come by unscheduled. And if you come by and you see your friends' cars outside and you knocking on the door or ringing the doorbell and they not answering, I just gave you why. You don't come by uninvited and you don't come by unscheduled. Those are
Mm-hmm.
black proverbs in case you didn't know. We got to have you got to have our consent to come by, and we need to know what time you coming and what day you coming.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I don't. I'm not trying to be funny, but I don't really know any black people in my life that whose house I could just drive to and show up, even though I know them. Even though some of them I've known for decades, I don't know any who's just gonna be like, "Yeah, come on by whenever you feel like it." Nope, that's not how it goes.
Nope. Not at all.
So I don't want to get my feelings hurt. So what do? I get on the phone and I say, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on in your life lately?" Here's another one, especially if you out of state. Oh my goodness. I'm coming to Florida, which we know is not gonna be anytime soon. I'm coming to Florida. I'm gonna be in Florida between the dates of XYZ and XYZ. I'd love to hang out. I'd love to get together. Do you have time in your schedule? Oh, what days do you have time in your schedule? Would you prefer I come by your home, or do you want to meet up someplace close that we both can agree on? Like, to me, I don't know. I don't know. These are common sense things. Maybe I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
These are common sense things.
You're not wrong.
But don't get mad if you don't see me and you came to my region and you either didn't let me know you were here, you didn't call, you never communicated. I don't want to hear nothing about you mad that you didn't see me. Because what are we even talking about? What are we even talking about? You didn't
Right.
do the basics, which is communicate. If I see on social media you posting all these pictures about how wonderful your trip was, and you was in the Washington D.C. area, the Baltimore area, the Virginia area, and you ain't stopped by and see me, then I must not have been important to your schedule. I'm good. I'm good with it. But don't turn around and say, Oh, I was in the area and she ain't even called me. She ain't even reach out. Be so for real, as the young people would say. Be so for real. All right, I'm done because I could keep going.
Yeah.
This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles, and hopefully you learned some communication etiquette right then. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. Call your friends, communicate, hold your boundaries, establish good relationships with your parents and those connected to your parents. Be well, and most importantly, be what, Pastor Ben?
Light.
Light. Take care, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow will be a short show, and we are going to be looking at the book, The Spirit of Justice by Dr. Jamar Tisby. Take care and be light.